Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about installing a Prometheus version 6 cutoff lever in my Echo1 P90. Now, I've had this Echo1 P90 ever since I've been in Airsoft, so probably about 7-8 years now. It was my first gun that I teched on. It was my first gun that I actually bought that was Tokyo Marui compatible, besides like the crappy springers. So it means a lot to me, so I want to keep it in functioning order, and recently it's been double and triple shooting on semi-auto. So I tore it apart and I noticed the cutoff lever is just way too worn out beyond use. So ordered a Prometheus version 6 and I'm going to install it. So it was a little tricky to do. There's a couple things you got to do to get it to work right. So I'm going to go over everything I did to get it to work right. So P90s are extraordinarily interesting airsoft guns, I think, and real guns too. But the airsoft version itself is odd. Pretty simple overall, I feel like, and easy to work on. But when they start throwing issues at you, you can't troubleshoot them exactly the same way that you do an M4 or an AK. So, particularly with semi-auto, it's just the cutoff lever is kind of poorly designed that it's going to wear easily, like I guess all cutoff levers do. But once we break it down, I'll kind of talk more about that. Overall, I really like the P90. I wish I used it more often, but I just feel like the modularity of my M4s and my DSG, it kind of outdoes the P90 look and feel too. So anyway, let's break it down. I'm going to show you what I did to it. So the version 6 gearbox shell is just quite unique in my opinion. It's got just a lot of interesting things going on. Obviously got the MOSFET here. This is your trigger contact housing. You have a 2-stage trigger. On the other side here is where the Prometheus cutoff lever is installed, and I'll talk about exactly what I did. So let me break down the gearbox and pull everything out, and we'll go into it. Alright, so I have the gearbox broken down the way I want it to. Let's take a look at what a worn cutoff lever looks like. This is the old 8-year-old or so version 6 cutoff lever that was in my P90 from the get-go. And you can see it's just a little too worn out. This ridge here, get a good angle on it. Yeah, there it is. You can see the ridge there where the cutoff cam did not touch ever, and it's not worn out really. But you can see the cutoff lever here, it's worn out. It's rounded, it's kind of dull looking, it's smaller than what it normally would be. It's a worn out, useless cutoff lever. This is the Prometheus one. You can see it's more pronounced, it's sharper. Doesn't really have any wear to it except where I had to modify it a little bit, which we'll talk about later. So this is what a cutoff lever should look like. Sharp, defined, no wear obviously. So yeah, first thing I tried, when I got the cutoff lever in, the first thing I tried was just to slide it right in. First thing I noticed was that it actually wouldn't fit over this screw hole here that holds it in. The diameter here was too small. So what I did was I took a flathead and I just kind of rotated it a little bit in there until I widened the hole just enough to where it would slide right on. I made it to where it's flush with the gearbox shell. It doesn't interfere with anything else on top, and it reciprocates fine. So that was the first problem I had. Next problem I had is that when I did that, I couldn't get the cutoff lever to reset all the way. It was hitting the sector gears shims on the lower side. So I opened it up to take a closer look, which I'll show you guys what that looked like. Alright, so once I got to here, I took a simple look right here to notice and see that the sector gear cutoff cam and the shims were really kind of grossly contacting the cutoff lever, and we're not allowing it to rest all the way down like it is now. It was more or less about right here, and that's just not going to work at all. And so for reasons such as it won't actually knock off the trigger trolley, it won't engage properly, it's not going to work for what you need to do. So what I had to do is I took this sector gear out, and I took this cutoff lever out. And I filed down this portion of the cutoff lever, just piece by piece like this, once or twice, assessing it, trying again, taking away some length on it, measuring again, take away again until I got it just right. And so that was the next problem that I fixed. If you take off too much material, then you're back to square one with this thing. You basically created a useless cutoff lever. If you don't take off enough material, then it's not going to work altogether. So I got it to where it sits about like that with the sector gear, and that was that problem fixed as well. So let's move on to the other problems that I fixed. So I'll talk about two things that I did here. So when I got the cutoff lever on here screwed down, I got this problem fixed right here. It reciprocates fine. Problem number 3, I believe this is now. It was too wobbly here. Even with the screws screwed all the way down, it was too wobbly. So I put 2 G&P 0.1 shims underneath, and that solidified it pretty nicely. Number 4. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of shimming, so I shim almost everything. I bent the cutoff lever down just a little bit. It was flexing up a little bit like that, and so I couldn't find that being a screwed down problem. I couldn't find that it was knocking on anything on the gearbox shell, so I just bent it down just a little bit, like barely anything at all. I'll be able to barely see it there. But yeah, I bent it down just a little bit, and now it's a little bit closer to where the trigger trolley will be. So now let me install the trigger trolley and show you what I changed on the trigger trolley. So the Prometheus version 6 cutoff lever is a little different yet again than the Echo1, JG, whatever brand it is, I don't care, cutoff lever. So this portion here that knocks the trigger trolley is actually a little bit longer than this one right here. And it's also wider, but that wasn't too much of a problem. Now, the reason why the length is a problem, it's because in the standard version, right here, there's a little lip there where the cutoff lever sits and rests. It'll rest just like that. So when the trigger trolley comes over it, it has the cutoff lever has room to sit before it'll knock it off, causing a semi-automatic cycle. So the Prometheus one sat just a little too far forward, kind of engaged the trolley head on and wouldn't slide underneath. So as it is, it took a Dremel and created a little more space. Now you gotta be really careful here because you can actually Dremel down the trolley tab on accident pretty easily, where the cutoff lever will knock it off and you have to get a whole new assembly. So you just gotta Dremel down just a little bit so this cutoff lever has space to rest, just like that. And that's allowed it to work flawlessly. Quite a bit of work for a cutoff lever to function well, but works well in the end. And now I have a cutoff lever that's not gonna wear out for a long time. So like I said, that's a lot of work to get a cutoff lever to work properly, but sometimes that's what you gotta do. Version 2s have given me some sorts of problems, but not a whole lot. Version 3s tend to give you the least amount of problems. Stuff like this is the most amount of problem you're gonna have with a cutoff lever. But yeah, that cutoff lever is gonna work pretty well. Last a long time, hopefully. And you can see the trigger trolley slides over it as opposed to engaging it directly like it was before I did this all this work here. I think it's kind of funny that it stands out so much. It's such a bright silver aluminum. But yeah, that should work for a long time. Shouldn't have any problems in the future. Hopefully I don't, fingers crossed. And yeah, that's what you gotta do to get this Prometheus version 6 cutoff lever to work in a P90 gearbox shell. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a pretty simple concept, cutoff lever and semi-auto issues, but it can be pretty complicated when you add in difficult or more complicated than usual trigger contacts like version 6 versus like a version 2. In addition, a cutoff lever that has small spec issues like this one did can just kind of throw a wrench into it. So if you take your time, you can solve it pretty easily, but some people tend to just throw it in and expect it to work, and in reality, it's not quite like that. So yeah, as per usual, like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think I'm doing right, tell me what you think I'm doing wrong so I can stop doing it, and yeah, just keep me informed on how I can do better. And so yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned, techs.